on Zoom, just let me know where you're from and your name and put that on the chat box. My name is Aparna. I'm going to be your host for today and I am streaming from Bangalore. Gulam, welcome to the session. Everyone else, just make it quick. Put your name and the city that you're from on the chat. All right. Gautam, you're from Kochi, Alekhya, Boston. Nice, nice, nice. People from across the world. Good morning to our expert and also people who live on the other side of the world. Good evening to people living in India and closer to India. Shoaib from Pune, Brian from South Africa, Shrikant, welcome to the session. My name is Aparna. I'm going to be your host for today. Yes, Nikhil, welcome. Mustaq is still a student. Amazing. Okay. More responses on the chat. Okay, Reshma from Bangalore, Imran from UAE. Please put your name and the city, please. I won't be able to identify your name with your email ID. Yeah, that's great. I'm also streaming live on YouTube. So people on YouTube listening to us, just give me a hi on the live chat and we'll be responding to you there. I'm also looking at messages on YouTube. So just quickly interact with us. Yes, yes, Yash, Shantanu. Please give me your name and also your city. Okay, okay. Okay, so people, we're just getting started with the session. Give us, time till tomorrow. You will receive a recording along with the certificate, but that's after the webinar. Let's, try and learn the best from the webinar while you're here. Utilize your time and understanding which certification is the best for you. Okay, Cecilia is from Pradeep from Bangalore. Okay, amazing. Cecilia from Kenya. Amazing. Oh, yes. Someone says, Brian, they remember you from earlier, from another SimplyLearn session. Yes.
That's great. You're back for more.
All right. That's amazing, guys. Keep giving your introductions on the chat. Gajendra, you're from Noida. Musa, you're from UAE. Amazing. Okay, that's great. That's great. A lot of you joining in. Okay, let me look at YouTube now. Okay, folks on YouTube, you guys got to catch up. Give me your name and the introductions. Your city, the city that you're from. Shantanu from Calcutta. That's great. Amazing. 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 Okay. Great. So we're all gathered to understand the differences, the major differences amongst these certifications, that is CSM, PSM1, and PMP. All right. So we have our expert speaker, Brian, today. He will be taking you through these certifications and eventually tell you or talk about our programs as well, the certification training programs. Okay, so this is going to be just some quick ground rules before we get started. So let's say you have a question. Brian is really responsive, so he's very particular that you put your questions in the Q&A box. Remember, the Q&A box is separate from the chat box. So if you put it on the chat box, we're sure to miss it. There are too many messages for us to scroll from. Okay, so put it on the Q&A box. You know where to find the Q&A box. Just go click on those three dots and you'll find the Q&A box. Put your questions there whenever you have one, okay? Whether it's related to the session or if it's related to the program. Now, let's say you miss something, your network issues, you have something to catch up on. Do not worry, this session is being recorded and you will receive the recording along with your certificate tomorrow after the webinar is done, okay? Now, for the webinar certificate, we'll collect your name towards the end. So make sure you hang on till the end of the session to give your full name, and we launch a poll to collect your details. All right. So if the ground rules are clear, we'll get started very quickly with the session. Like I said, just some quick reminder here, make sure you add any question about all the three certifications or whether it's about the programs on the Q&A box. Okay, all right. Now, before I start, I'm also going to be introducing myself. In case you just joined, my name is Aparna, and I'm going to be your host for today. We have our expert speaker, Brian. He's going to be taking you through the session. We'll introduce him to you shortly. But before that, a little bit about SimplyLearn. Most of you, I'm sure, are familiar, but just a quick introduction. SimplyLearn empowers people with digital skills across different domains, and project management is just one of them. So we've touched more than 5 million careers worldwide across more than 150 countries. Okay, so we've got courses on data, AI, data science, analytics, cybersecurity, software development, and also product management, project management, agile, and Scrum everywhere. Okay, so just before we get started and I start introducing Brian to you, I would want to understand the number of years of experience that you carry. Okay, so before Brian talks about himself and introduce himself, we would love to understand how many years of experience you carry. But do not put that on the chat. I'm just going to launch a quick poll here. You will be seeing that on your screens. Just answer, with whatever is relevant. Less than 2 years, 2 to 5 years, 6 to 10 years, more than 10 years. Okay? Yeah, please answer on the poll. Do not use the chat box. Yes. Okay, amazing. A lot of you have more than 10 years of experience. I'm going to be keeping the poll live for the next 30 seconds. Yes. Yes. Okay, that's great. That's great. Yes. Please put your answers on the poll. It needn't be relevant experience, need to be relevant project management experience, just any work experience, any kind of experience that you carry. Okay. You should be able to answer on the poll. Just try to click on one option. You should be able to see it. I'm also going to be closing the poll in the next 10 seconds. Yes, correct. Correct. All right, guys, so I'm just going to be ending the poll for our expert to look at these answers. Now, I welcome Brian to this session. Brian, I'm excited about the session and also welcome once again to yet another webinar with SimplyLearn. So I'm going to let you introduce yourself to our learners. Please, the stage is yours, Brian.
Sure. Thanks so much. Yes, great to connect. And it's, like you said, always exciting to see where everyone's coming from. So many different parts of the world represented. So a little bit about myself. I am a project program manager. So along with those little initials there, PMP, PGMP, PMI, ACP are all indications that I've spent a lot of time with the Project Management Institute. So in fact, I not only have many certifications, but I also help them with authoring content, things like the project management body of knowledge, as well as help with exam questions that people are going to take when they get their certifications. In addition, I do also a lot of work in the agile domain. So in fact, most of the work I do is as an agile transformation coach, generally for pretty large companies, some of which you might not always be familiar with. Home Depot, I don't think it's got an India presence, but it's a massive retail do-it-yourself company here in the US. Cigna, Humana, these are large healthcare companies. ExxonMobil, BP, those might be a bit more familiar. These are large, very large oil and gas companies. So I do a lot of work in typically that space, mostly understanding, hey, how do we use agile and more traditional project management? So I'm really excited about today's topic because this question comes up a lot: which certification would be best for someone following different career paths? And then also talking about, how do we go about getting those certifications? So yeah, really excited today. And by the way, I am located in Houston, Texas. I think I saw a couple other folks on today's session from there. So it's a beautiful day here in Houston. It's sunny and not that hot and humid. So we're happy about that.
Right. Brian, just a quick thing. Someone from the chat mentioned that your voice is a little feeble. So if you could move closer.
Sure. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, we can definitely do that. And I can adjust the mic here. How's that? How are you hearing it? Does it sound okay to you, Aparna?
Yeah, I think it's fine now. It's fine now.
All right, good, good. Thank
Yeah.
you for sharing that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it should be okay now, guys. Whoever is saying that. Fine.
All right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, maybe Denise, if you got some volume, you can oh, maybe others are saying the same thing. Let me just do a quick check here on audio and make sure it is as loud as it can be. Sorry, bear with me one sec. All right, that looks good. And for the microphone. And test, test, test. Oh, okay. So yeah, maybe it is a little bit low.
But I mean, I'm able to hear it clearly. So,
Okay. All right. Well, if we're good, let's just get rolling. And
yes.
for those having a hard time, crank up the volume. So yeah, let's talk about this. So the first thing is we've got 3 certifications we're going to cover today. And one of the first things to get comfortable with is each one of these certifications are managed by different certification bodies. So we have the Project Management Institute. So it might not surprise you to be aware or hear that they are responsible for project management certifications. And the big one that they offer is the Project Management Professional, the PMP. So this is all oriented around effective project management practices. And one of the things that the PMI really focuses on is how do we find practices that span different types of projects, different kind of industries. So you can use these techniques, these practices on software development. You can use them on building a great big skyscraper. You can use them for maybe a healthcare initiative that a government is introducing across its country. So there's lots of different ways you can apply these practices. Then we have the 2 other certifications. And the first one is a certified Scrum Master that is provided by the Scrum Alliance, and it focuses on a framework called Scrum. And Scrum is a set of practices used for more agile types of product delivery. And then similarly, we have the Professional Scrum Master, and that is provided by scrum.org. And it also focuses on the Scrum framework. And probably the big difference between the Certified Scrum Master and the Professional Scrum Master is the Certified Scrum Master is a little bit more holistic. It talks about maybe, more abstract topics, how do we organize work? How do we get the right people working on that work? The Professional Scrum Master tends to put a little bit more focus on how would you do that in a work environment? What does a day in the life of a Scrum Master look like? So they're both very effective. They cover the same type of territory. And the project management, PMP, is going to be a little bit more oriented around project management practices. But you'll see they all come together here as we kind of spend a bit more time in the next slides here. So, Harna, let's see what we got. Okay, so one of the first things we probably need to get a little comfortable with is just what is this term agile? What does it mean? So agile essentially is a collection of practices, methodologies, processes that help with developing products. Okay, and really when we develop a product, what do we need to do? Well, we need to understand what our customers need, right, or the customer requirements. And oftentimes, when we're thinking about what customers need, it's not always immediately clear, right? Sometimes people don't exactly know what it is that they want. Other times, this could be very new areas. You think of AI, for example. It's sort of a new, very nascent, emergent technology. So it's not always clear how people are going to use AI-oriented products. So we want to start with some assumptions, do some planning, collaborate, work together with people that need the things that we're going to build, check with them that they're getting what they want, and then deliver something. And Agile really just puts a lot of emphasis on how can we do that quickly? How can we get feedback, make adjustments, and get something of value from the work that we're doing? So that's what Agile is. Agile is all about how can we leverage digital technologies in particular to deliver work really quickly, get feedback, and then use that to decide how we want to move forward. Everything in the Agile space is supported by those values and principles of the Agile Manifesto. So if you're not familiar with those, you can just type in agilemanifesto.org and you can learn a little bit more about those values and principles. So yeah, with that, Aparna, we move to the next slide. And here we're going to see that we have Agile. So think of Agile as sort of an umbrella. And nestled underneath of the umbrella are different practices. So Scrum is one of these practices. And this is really a little bit more prescriptive. You can think of sort of agile as sort of a way of thinking. Here's some ways that we recognize are more effective, particularly around finding ways to bring people together, interacting, collaborating. Scrum tells you a little bit more on how to do that. Here's how you bring teams together to get them to collaborate and interact. So an important concept within Scrum is this idea that we're going to take work and we're going to break it down to small little pieces that we're going to deliver in these sprints. And these sprints are just time-boxed periods in which we're going to deliver something of value. And the whole intent is to get feedback. Because remember, as I mentioned, sometimes customers don't always know what it is but they want, or sometimes we're working in an area that's kind of new and we don't really understand or have a clear path on what direction we want to go. So a good way to kind of figure that out is to do work in small pieces and get feedback and use that to kind of help us understand if we're going the right direction. So this is all about delivering value incrementally. We want to deliver work in these short iterations that are sort of time boxed, each iteration incrementally building on the previous iteration. So this is the intent of this. Now, remember I mentioned we've got the PMI, which talks about project management practices, and then we got these Scrum certification bodies that focus on Scrum. So one big difference between the two, if you get your PMP certification, you are going to be preparing yourself for a 4-hour exam. It's got hundreds of questions, and you're going to be referring to this project management body of knowledge, which is pretty well 1,000 pages long. So it's pretty detailed, lots of information in it. And we'll contrast that to the Scrum guide. So Scrum has its own sort of guide, just like the PMBOK, but it's only 13 pages long. So it's kind of short, a lot more accessible, which is a big reason a lot of companies tend to use Scrum because it's kind of easy. It's lightweight. That's just enough for what they need to get their work delivered. Okay, so now we've got sort of our bearings on Agile and Scrum. Let's see some of the key differences between these. So we got project management. As I mentioned, this is all oriented around structured planning, execution of projects. So this is sort of thinking of a project has a definitive start, a definitive end. It's got a scope that we're delivering. You have a budget and you have a schedule. Very, very structured. Okay, we're going to move through our delivery life cycle. We're going to have things like phase gates and checkpoints and milestones and sign-offs, highly structured. Hey, the focus is on really achieving goals within that scope and time. These are constraints. We've got so much time, so much money, and the scope that we have to deliver. And so we've got roles, like a project manager is going to coordinate a whole bunch of teams and to some degree tell them kind of what to do, when to do it, ask them for how they're progressing. And it's going to follow a very, very well-defined set of phases. We're going to go through planning. We're going to maybe even initiation. We're going to think about what it is we want to do. Then we'll do some planning around what we've agreed to do. Then we'll execute that. And when we finish execute, we'll close out our project and it's done. And this really works well in environments where we have clear requirements. We've maybe done this before. We're adding some enhancements to our SAP or Oracle system. We've done this lots of times before. We know what questions to ask. We can really kind of predict the work that we're doing, or maybe we're building something. We're building a house, a residential house. We've built tens of thousands of these. We know exactly what to expect, how to do it. These kind of project management practices work really well. Agile is a lot better fit for environments where we need more flexibility, where things aren't as well defined. We want to iterate and kind of discover and learn and make adjustments as we go. So that's really emphasizing adaptability, the ability to change and to deliver value continuously. People don't want to wait a long time before they get something. They want something as quickly as they can get it and use it as a way to kind of unlock that value early. In these settings, we're really going to rely on teams. We want self-managed, autonomous teams that are cross-functional. So we've got a team with a rich set of skills. They can get the work done, whether it's, engineering and development. It could be, UI and interface design. It could be database and management. It could be testing. All that is within the team. They take the work, they get the work, they estimate how long it takes the work to get done, and then they do it. So a lot of feedback. And this works really well in places that have a lot of complexity, a lot of moving parts, and we don't really know exactly the best way to approach this because the requirements are changing. So we're just going to start with what we know. We'll continue to prioritize our work, and then we'll organize around that. And then we get a little bit more prescriptive in the Agile space with Scrum. So Scrum is a specific framework. It's going to tell us how to do Agile practices effectively. It works with this idea of a time box sprint for our iterative development and our incremental delivery. We have 3 roles in Scrum, 3, and that's it. We've got a Scrum Master, a product owner, and the team, the development team doing the work. And they rely on these structured ceremonies. So there's 4 structured meetings, planning, daily stand-ups, reviews, and retros. Those happen consistently throughout each one of the sprints. So it's very structured, very well defined, and yet still flexible. It can be very responsive to changing needs of our customers. So that's a little bit about the difference between these. Now let's dig in a bit further. So what do you do if you're a certified Scrum Master or a professional Scrum Master? Remember, they're going to cover the same ground. So first off, you'll facilitate those Scrum practices. Remember those 4 meetings I mentioned? So you'll be the person kind of coordinating those, making sure they're set up, the right people are involved, that the team is working effectively in those practices, including the sprints. Also, you're on the lookout for roadblocks. Anything is going to prevent the team from getting work done. So you're kind of on high alert for that. When you see a roadblock, you're going to spring into action, help that team member get it resolved. You want to find ways to encourage collaboration, promote teamwork. Some of that's bringing people together and kind of helping them kind of learn the best way to communicate and work effectively together. You're going to help the team by coaching them, mentoring them, helping them adopt these Agile principles, explaining why these principles are important, and then looking for ways to continuously improve. What can we do to kind of learn from what we've done, find ways to do things better, avoid things that maybe aren't working a little well, and really enhance our team performance, help the team understand how they're performing and delivering value. And let's contrast that to what does a project manager do? Well, PMP is going to focus on different types of activities, but with the same general idea, which is delivering something to customers. So first off, you've got to plan the project. You've got to understand what are the goals? What is it we're trying to achieve? What problem are we trying to solve? What opportunity exists? Think about the scope, our timelines, the resources, the budgets necessary to meet those project goals and objectives. And then we're going to manage the teams. And notice that we use the word team manage, right? There's a lot of expectation. Project managers are there to provide clear direction, to help team and team members understand what it is they need to do. You'll often need to coordinate across multiple different cross-functional teams to ensure that all our tasks are getting delivered in a way that sort of supports our ultimate delivery. Checking in on progress, project managers are often asked 2 important things. When's it going to be done? How much is it going to get? How much is it going to cost? So you need to be prepared to answer those questions. Make sure that we're adhering to things like quality standards that the organization has identified. You'll be on the lookout for risks, things that could impact our ability to get our work completed, and then thinking about how would we either avoid those risks, or if they do occur, how do we address them and even mitigate them? And then ultimately communicating to stakeholders. As a project manager, most of my time is spent talking to other people who are interested in answering those questions on like, how long is it going to take and how much is it going to cost? So you're spending a lot of time communicating with stakeholders, helping them understand what progress there is, and also getting their input on things like requirements and feedback on progress. So that's a little difference between the Scrum Master and the project manager. Now, a question that often comes up is, what are the exams like? How hard are these? So there's a bit of a good news story here. Both the Certified Scrum Master and the Professional Scrum Master are very accessible places to begin if this is kind of early in your career life cycle. I think both of these are places that are a good starting point. Now, I did notice a lot of folks on the call have a fair amount of experience, and we'll talk a bit about how the PMP fits into that shortly. But you'll see that each one of these certifications do have an exam that come with it. So when we think of Certified Scrum Master, you've got a 1-hour exam, just like the Professional Scrum Master. You got 50 questions that are going to be answered in the CSM, 80 questions in the Professional Scrum Master. Both of these are very accomplishable. These are not really, they're not long paragraphs or essay style questions. They're usually very short, so you should have no problem finishing the questions in the 60 minutes that are allotted. You can see the passing score for both of them, so you've got to get a certain number correct to get that successful pass for the certification. And then notice, and this can kind of be important in deciding which one of these are a better fit for your needs. If you take the CSM, you're going to be expected to renew that every 2 years. And the way you do that is getting these Scrum education units. Basically, you attend seminars like this, you take some training, those give you a certain number of the Scrum education units, and that allows you to maintain your certified Scrum Master. So part of the thinking there is, yeah, we want to constantly practicing these skills so they're kind of fresh and current. Professional Scrum Master, notice, doesn't have a renewal. It just, you pass it once and you've got it forever. Sort of a recognition, it's like riding a bike. Once you've learned these skills, you can just retain them, no need to renew them. Now, the project management professional, PMP, as I mentioned before, a little bit more involved. So it, first off, right off the bat, notice there's a lot more questions, 180 questions that you're going to be spending time on. It's a 4-hour exam. Now, interestingly, the PMI doesn't really reveal what that pass score is. Okay, and they sort of do some back calculations that figure this out, but they will tell you immediately once you complete the exam whether or not you passed or didn't. Also, they have a renewal period. It's every 3 years, and you earn that renewal by completing professional development units, and those include things like you're taking today. Today would be considered a PDU, one PDU that you could use towards maintaining your PMP. Now, notice one other criteria about the PMI that makes it a bit different from the 2 Scrum certifications is that the PMI has some additional educational and work experience requirements. So they are going to expect you, for example, to have a college or university degree. And if you don't, you have to demonstrate a commensurate amount of work experience. They also expect you to have a number of years worth of experience in the project management domain. Now, not necessarily as a project manager, but someone who at least has been exposed to and worked with projects. So there's a little bit more of sort of a entry criteria to get your PMP, but the good news is I noticed about half the group here has a fair amount of experience over 10 years. So this will probably still be a good fit for you. If you don't have that amount of experience, consider the 2 Scrum certifications as options.
Got it. I think that gives a clear picture of what these roles are and what these certifications are. So just to quickly summarize, I think it depends on where your career is headed or what kind of roles you want to pick up and how each of these certifications will kind of apply to what we're doing. Is that right, Brian?
Exactly right. So, a couple questions you just have to ask yourself. So you saw, hey, there are some differences.
Yeah.
So you really want to spend some time asking, what path do I want to take? And to some degree, some of us work better in environments that are highly collaborative, interactive. So you might find Scrum and Agile a good fit. Others like to be a bit more structured. In that case, PMP might be a better fit.
Okay, got it. So let's just spend a little bit more time understanding our 3 certifications that we have: the Certified Scrum Master, Professional Scrum Master, and the Project Management Professional Training. Okay, so first one, let's just understand what the CSM certification training looks like with us. So you've got live instructor-led sessions, and you've got 16 of them. And along with this particular course, you get access to 15 other value addition courses that are worth $500. And all of these sessions are delivered by certified Scrum trainers. Okay, so with this particular training, although you don't have any particular eligibility criteria to meet, or you don't have to have a certain kind of experience, although for the certification exam it's different, but for this particular training you don't need that. After this training, you get access to a Scrum Alliance membership for 2 years. And this particular course is not just entirely theory based. So you're also learning by practicing through simulations and case studies, right? So Brian will just help us understand what the course exactly has, what the course curriculum exactly has. So over to you, Brian, again.
Yeah, for sure. So you can see that one of the things, just as a part of was saying, we want to give you real world kind of practical tools that you can bring into the work that you're doing. So all this starts with sort of a a basic introduction to Agile itself. So learning a little bit about things, what is an Agile behavior? What is an Agile mindset? And then we'll progress into helping shine some light on what the Agile Manifesto is. Remember the 4 values, the 12 principles that I kind of alluded to earlier. So we get very familiar with that. Then we're going to start digging into Scrum. And we're going to get a solid understanding of what Scrum is intended to do, get a good overview. We'll look at the 3 pillars of Scrum upon which it's based. Scrum has its own values, so we want to make sure we understand those. And those roles that I mentioned, what are the 3 roles? What makes a Scrum team, that product owner, the Scrum Master, and the development team? Then we'll look at some important artifacts, things like the product backlog. That's sort of the linchpin of the work that the team is going to pull from and deliver in their sprints. And we'll spend some time on those Scrum artifacts, those ceremonies that you heard me mention before, learn a little bit more about what planning, the daily stand-up, the review, and the retro look like. So all of this, once you're completed, you will be in a great position to really just take this forward, start applying it and getting value from what you learned. So I think this is a great course curriculum because it quickly gets you up to speed on what Scrum is all about so you can actually start applying it.
Right. Got it. Thank you so much. So can you also, tell our learners as to who this course is really for? I mean, a lot of them have this question as to whether they need to have a certain kind of work X to pursue this certification and later on choose similar roles.
Yeah, that's a great question, Parna. So the interesting thing about the Scrum certification in particular is it really applies to such a wide range of roles. So you can be a product manager, you can be a project manager, even a more traditional structured project manager can get a lot of benefit from understanding some of these Scrum practices. Business analysts who are working with teams and customers, they can get a lot of value from understanding some of these Scrum practices. Of course, if you're a team member on a Scrum team, of course, yep, we want you to be familiar with what Scrum is. If you're transitioning to Scrum, I work a lot with organizations where they're making the shift from more functionally oriented teams that have like specialties, here's a business analyst team, here's a development team, here's a testing team, to more of these Scrum-based teams of cross-functional skills. So it's really important to have this foundation. And then if you're hearing some of this and saying, man, this Agile stuff sounds really interesting, I like to work with people and connect and collaborate. Yeah, this is a great path for you to pursue if you want to really become a certified Scrum Master, helping those teams leverage these techniques.
Nice. Amazing. Got it. Thank you so much, Brian. Now we just head on to understanding what the PSM one is, which is the Professional Scrum Master. Okay. So very similar course. We again have 16 hours of live instructor-led sessions. And again, that does not mean that you're going to be learning only theory around it. You will be understanding with case studies and simulations as to how you can apply whatever you learned in a real-time scenario, right? So the only difference in the certification training between CSM and PSM is that in the PSM training, you get the exam voucher. I mean, the exam cost is included in your course fee. Okay, so with that, it's much easier for you to use the voucher and apply for the certification exam. Okay, so like always, Brian is going to help you understand what the course curriculum entails here. Remember that all of these sessions are live and are conducted again by professional Scrum trainers. Okay, great. So Brian, over to you again about the course curriculum.
Yeah. So again, you're going to see some similarities with what's covered in the Certified Scrum Master. So we're going to start with sort of the Scrum framework, its philosophies and principles, make sure to get a good grounding. This is also going to include some of the other ideas around the Agile Manifesto and its values and principles. That's all going to be packaged up in those areas. Then we're going to start digging into what does Scrum planning look like and what are some of the other ceremonies we need to leverage to support this style of delivery. Now, notice one of the things that start to emerge in later on in the delivery curriculum here: quality and the definition of done, cross-functional, self-organizing teams, coaching and facilitation. So those don't get as much emphasis in the CSM. CSM is going to focus a little bit more on the intent behind these practices, how they are sort of all hooked together, why they're all important. Here in the PSM, we're going to spend a little bit more time digging into, like, how do we know something's done? What are the acceptance criteria? what are some of the other things we need to support, like our enterprise standards, maybe our security, privacy, things like that, that help us understand that this work is complete? How do we create these cross-functional self-organizing teams? What do they look like? What kind of skills do we need to be an effective team working together, delivering something of value? And then as a Scrum Master, what coaching and facilitation skills can you draw upon to really help the team grow and develop? So a little bit of a difference between the CSM and the PSM. And the biggest thing, if you're considering which one of these you want to pursue, one is a little bit more oriented around practical, hands-on, quality, definition done, those examples here. CSM, a little broader. So, kind of a question of where you want to get started. And then don't lose sight of the fact that one does require renewal. CSM, every 2 years, you're going to have to demonstrate you've completed a number of your SEUs, so Scrum Educational Units, whereas a PSM is not going to require that. So some people find that a little bit more appealing. Hey, just one and done, and move on from there.
All right. So again, I think I think you're the best person to explain. Again, is this relevant for anybody who is starting out, or is it suitable to only people who are experienced? How does that work?
Yeah, again, this is a nice certification because it's very accessible to either very experienced people, maybe even working in an organization 20 plus years, and it's starting to embrace more agile practices. Yeah, this would be a great certification to get you exposed to these concepts and better prepared for what your organization might be introducing. You could be brand new, you just graduated from college, university, and you want a little bit more of this understanding so you can work effectively with team members. So it's a great fit. You can see the different roles. Product managers and owners, the software developers and testers, team members, architects, of course, a Scrum Master, team leads, all of them are going to get a lot of value from taking this or the CSM course.
Right, got it. So next comes the PMP, or the Project Management Professional course, which is offered by the PMI, or the Project Management Institute. Now here again, through this training, you get something known as 35 contact hours, which is required for you to be eligible for the program. And along with the training, you get access to 12 simulations, 500 plus PMI exclusive questions, and a question bank. Now, this is because, like Brian said, the PMP is a slightly more complicated test. It's a 4-hour long test. So it requires you to practice a lot more. And that's why this particular training offers you exactly that's required to get you to be prepared for this particular test, right? So you also have access to strategies to pass your exam in the first attempt. And across all of these courses, one thing that remains common is our support. So there's 24/7 support that's available for you, whether you live, you can be from anywhere in the world, but you will still be receiving round-the-clock assistance on whatever questions or queries that you have. Right. So just a little, Brian will again take us through what the PMP course curriculum entails. Over to you, Brian.
Yeah, thanks, Varna. So remember again, when we're talking about the PMP, we're shifting focus. We're not putting as much emphasis on some of these agile practices instead of really thinking about these typically larger, more complex projects. So one of the first things we want to start with is just the business environment. What setting are you operating in? The PMP is developed to support many different industries, many different types of project delivery. So that business environment, that context becomes really important. And so you can determine which project lifecycle to leverage. Then we need to think about how do we start our project? What initiation is required? What project charter are we going to develop? So we use that to plan and lead the project. Now notice a little bit of a difference there. We're talking about, you're the one leading the project. And this project is sort of this, time-bound, start, finish, date oriented delivery mechanism. So as a project manager, you're going to be front and center for managing that. You'll take responsibility for managing the team that is delivering the work. You're going to need to understand what they're doing, give them guidance on how to do work, track their progress against your schedule, and also manage things like your project and the scope. And then finally, when you're wrapped up, the whole project, you close it out. What does that look like? Well, we're going to spend some time understanding lessons learned. We're going to tie out invoices that might be outstanding and POs. We're going to release people that might have been part of the project back to other parts of the organization from where they came. And then finally, we'll spend that final part of the course looking at some of the learning objectives that the PMI emphasizes, because that's going to get you ready for the exam. This exam is, I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. It's a pretty demanding exam. So you're really going to have to put some energy into preparing for it and practicing. One of the things that SimplyLearn, I think, has the best offering in the market is the practice exams themselves. If you complete those practice exams in the time that you're allocated, you'll be very confident taking that final certification exam. So those are really important. And then the other thing that I think, again, SimplyLearn has done a really effective job on is they've built so much content, online video lectures that you can take anywhere, anytime, and really support areas that maybe you need to get a little more, understanding of, or just kind of covering some of the fundamentals you need. So, so that library of content, I think, really kind of strengthens what this course offering has.
Right. Thank you so much, Brian, for answering that question for people. So again, this course is suitable for project managers. You could be a part of a project, you could be leading a project. It's just that if you have to take this exam, you would need that kind of an experience along with formal training. Because that's the only core difference. So that's it about all of our programs. Now, the big question is, now that you understand the different job roles, these certifications, and how they're different in, how they actually apply in real life scenarios, and you understood about the programs, would you be interested in taking these courses, right? So I'm just going to be launching a very quick poll asking your interest. Again, please put it on the poll. Do not use the Q&A or the chat box here. And yes, so here you go. So I've launched this poll that says, would you like to enroll in this program? Now, people on YouTube are asking me where this poll is. Guys, this poll is restricted to Zoom. So if you guys are interested in enrolling, just give me a yes on the chat box on YouTube. And you can also let us know which program you are interested in, whether it's CSM, PSM1, or PMP. This is for the people on YouTube. For people on Zoom, we'll let you, answer this question on a poll very soon. Okay, so while this poll is on, I think there are about 40 questions already on our Q&A box. So, Brian, would you want me to read them for you very quickly?
Oh, yeah, I'm going through them. I think if you want to pivot over to what the enrollment steps look like and questions around costs and things, I'm sure there's a lot of interest in hearing those, and I'll hopefully bang through most of these.
Right. So while Brian answers your questions, I'm just going to end this poll and quickly launch an other poll that asks you which program are you interested in. Okay. So I'm just going to quickly, launch another poll here. Here you go. Yes. Which certification are you interested in enrolling? Is it the CSM, PSM1, or the PMP? Okay, right. Now, just how do you exactly enroll? You head on to our course landing pages. So once you've submitted your interest here, you will be contacted by our learning counselors, and they will take you through the enrollment steps. It's a very simple process. You will just have to fill in your details, fill in a quick application. And then once that's done, we're just looking at your background a bit as to whether you fit in the requirements that the exam has, and then you enroll. So this is our cohort details for CSM. The next cohort starts on the 23rd of September, which is actually next week for the weekday class. There's also a weekend cohort starting on the 28th of September. And these are your fees for the US audience and for people in India. So there's GST additional to what you see as the course fee. For the PSM1 certification, the cohort starts on the 27th of September, and this is your course fee. For the PMP exam, certification training, not the exam, your cohort starts on the 24th of September, the weekday class, and 28th of September on the weekend class. Right? And of course, fee is $599. For Indian audience, it's $10,999 plus GST. Now, let's say that there's something that we couldn't answer about the course. You want to learn something about the course. Reach out to us on askus@simplylearn.net. TAMS 101195 would be great if you could give us your email ID. We'll reach out to you, and our learning counselors will be with you shortly to help you understand what the course looks like. Okay, that's for people on YouTube. But people who have answered this poll, the poll is still live, by the way. You can still give us your interest on whatever program you are interested in, and then you will have a learning counselor contact you. Okay, so we have your email IDs, so be rest assured that someone will reach out to you and answer all your queries. Okay, let's say you have more questions to ask our expert Brian right now. Please put them on the Q&A box, and Brian will be with you shortly. Okay, I see some really great questions, really interesting ones. Some of you are really worried about the exam. Some of you are worried about whether it's suitable to you, considering your experience, whatever that is. Just wait around. Brian will be with you shortly. Okay. So we've closed down the chat. We've only opened the Q&A box. So again, people on YouTube, if you have questions for us to pass on to our expert, let us know. We'll be doing that. Yes. Please put them on the live chat. That's great. So yeah, this is all about the 3 programs. I've given you the cohort details. Let's say you would want to look at the course page yourself. You could do that by scanning this QR code. You will be directed to our CSM page. Okay, or we could give you these links. We could give you these links on the chat box as well. Separate links for CSM, PSM1, and PMP. Yeah, so we'll be doing that right now as I speak. And then you could just go and look at these details yourself. Okay, yeah, you will also find the details of the cohort on the landing page. Okay, along with the fee. So when you click on enroll now, that's where you see the entire course calendar, all the upcoming cohorts, weekday, weekend included, along with the course fee. Okay, so all that we talked about, the eligibility, who the course is for, the course content, what you get out of the course, all the key features that we talked about, the exam details, how you take the exam, all of that is mentioned on the landing page. Yeah, okay, amazing. Now, if there are any more questions, I'm just going to end this poll that is asking you for your interest. If there's anyone else who would like to submit their interest, please do that in the next 30 seconds. I'm going to be closing that poll in a bit. Yes. Great. Okay, so the Q&A box is filled, Brian. Okay, I'm actually now worried about how Brian is going to answer all of them. Brian, I think, do you want to go ahead and talk, because there are like 48 of them.
Yeah, no, there's a lot in there. That's great.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
And so engaged. Yeah, have you covered all the enrollment, and because if not, we can open up and I can just maybe talk to a few of the questions that are here.
Yes, I'm done. Yes.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah, let's take a look at these. So yeah, some great questions. I just a number I've already had a chance to kind of respond to. So you might take a look in the answered section of the Q&A. But let's see. So Ansh is asking a question. Hey, I've got 18 years of IT experience, 5 years project management. Is it a good idea to do self-study and go for the PMP exam, or join the class sessions? I'm a bit scared by the long exam. Absolutely understand that the exam can feel a little intimidating. It's a 4-hour sit-down exam. If it's been 18 years, that's probably going to feel a little unfamiliar. So you do want to practice a bit, get ready for that. My general guidance, I think self-study obviously is going to be necessary, but I really would encourage you to take a class session for a couple reasons. First off, it's really valuable to hear from, a practice seasoned professional who can talk to you a little bit about these ideas and concepts, how they're applied, and it gives you some room to ask some questions. But also that cohort that you heard Aparna mention is really valuable, because they're going to help you learn and maybe hold you accountable as you're kind of practicing, getting ready for exams. So really encourage you to look for a class-based setting. I think that's going to really position you for success. Let's see, we've got I'm not sure all the names here, but a question about, I'm from the automobile manufacturing industry. Is this a certificate value for me? Yeah, I mean, it's a little unclear which one you're looking at specifically. If your automotive manufacturing industry is putting a lot of emphasis on Scrum, both the CSM, PSM are great places to put some time against. But if you're more traditional project management structure, then definitely pursue the PMP. Don't lose sight of the fact that these pair very, very nicely. I have my CSM and I have my PMP. They work great together. So there's nothing preventing you from getting both of these. Let's see, I'll skip over questions about exam fees because I think, Aparna, you covered that. We've got working for a financial firm, 8 years, really wish to switch my career. Which certification should I pursue? You're probably going to find, generally speaking, if this is something you're making a career switch on, the Agile certifications are going to be a stronger fit. Okay, because they don't have a lot of prerequisites. Frankly, they're a little more accessible. They're kind of easier exams to take. The PMP is going to require a lot more in terms of your education and experience, and the exam itself is a little more demanding. So maybe view that as a future certification goal. I thought once you obtain your CSM, next step is go forward to PSM1, which is more in depth. Yeah, I don't. Well, first off, they're offered by different certification bodies, so there's no path for going CSM to PSM. Now, the Scrum Alliance does offer a PSM1, a PSM2, even a PSM3, so you can progress. And you are absolutely right; those are topics we didn't cover, but you're using terms like story points and velocity. So there's a lot more to unpack in this Agile domain. So both the CSM, PSM kind of give you the initial sort of foundation. But if you want to progress into these other topics, like how to write user stories and how to use relative estimating with story points and track things like your velocity and your throughput, those are going to come through these other levels. And you touch a little bit on that in PSM1, but really PSM2 and 3 are really going to get a lot more in-depth information there. Again, questions about making career shift to PMP. Yes, if you are making that shift, you're senior executive, HR, and admin, you want to become a project manager, that's great. Yes, the PMP is sort of your gateway into the project management space, so it is a good place to start. Which is best to pursue somebody or as a PS. If you've got your PMP already, and maybe you're working with projects that are leveraging more agile practices, I would suggest the CSM is probably a bit more of a starting point for you. So maybe focus on that. You'll pick up the PSM activities and topics, I think, a little bit as you start doing work in the field. Great question on the data scientists. I work a lot with data scientists right now. So much work going on in that space, particularly with AI and machine learning. I would really encourage you to take the CSM first, because that, I think, is a little more of a broader understanding of these agile behaviors, and I think a better fit for data scientists work, because this domain is a little bit different than more traditional software development. So I think you'll benefit from a more abstract approach that you can figure out, how do my data scientist activities work there? I think there's interest PDF. Yes, you will get a copy of that. Senior software engineer, want to move to manager role, which will be the certification. Yeah, if you're working in a product-based company and you are a senior software engineer, you probably are going to gravitate more to the CSM, PSM areas. If you've been doing this for a while, you're in software, I think the PSM would probably be a stronger starting point for you. Maybe becoming a senior, how are we doing time-wise? We still have some time. Okay. Maybe to become a senior compliance project manager. Okay. And you're working on your Microsoft IAM specialist. Great, great. And you're preparing for the PMP. How would this course you evaluate my resume? In which way consider? Okay. So first off, I think the PMP certification, that you're already going down the path, sounds like you're familiar with it. Things that I would suggest that make SimplyLearn a great option for your certification needs is really just fantastic and proven curriculum that they have been delivering for over a decade now. Probably tens of thousands of people have taken it so far, Aparna. But in addition, the practice exams are fantastic. They're top notch. They're almost perfect replicas of what you'd expect to get when you take the certification exam itself. So I think that's really important to ground yourself. And then I personally think the package sort of online training coupled with sort of the self-service training is just really, really effective for most people, particularly if you're got a busy career and maybe, you know, family life. This fits in very well with that. Prerequisite PSM? Nope, no prerequisites for that or the CSM. Can you get both certs? Yes, you absolutely can. Can I get a CSM, PSM in economics too? Yeah, absolutely. This is sort of geared to people that might just be, you know, at a point in their career where they are still learning. They're still students. Oh, Jeremy asks a powerful question. How does the PMI ACP compare? So the ACP is the Agile Certified Professional. That's another certification that the Project Management Institute provides. That's for Agile. So it might not surprise you, just like the PMP, the ACP, a little bit more comprehensive. Okay, they have some requirements. You have to have a certain amount of education and experience, a little lighter weight than you find for the PMP. I personally think the ACP is a really, really strong Agile certification because it covers more than just Scrum. There are other Agile practices out there. So the ACP covers some of that ground in ways that the Scrum certifications don't, but a little bit more of an investment in terms of learning and preparing for the exam. What was this? Why? Any idea why CSM requires a new PSM doesn't? Well, some of that is a great question. That's a business model question. Having a lot of exposure to this, so there's different attitudes in the Agile community. There's some that feel like, hey, learning should be available to everyone. You don't need any certifications. You just know if you're doing it right by doing it. Others feel, no, we need to have some standards, and these exams are a way in which we can do that. And we want to ensure that people are constantly thinking about and investing in their Agile skills. So there's just two different ways in which they've gone. To give you the full backstory, Scrum was developed by two people, Ken Schwaber and Jeff Sutherland. And both of these are different organizations that the two of them are sort of overseeing. So they had a little bit maybe falling out. So they've taken different paths, but it gives you choices. And I think choice is always important. Will the PSM one allow you to teach a CSM course? No, it will not teach any of these courses. SimplyLearn has partnered with some excellent instructors. It is a big investment to be able to get certified to teach these courses. So you will not be able to teach just by taking the CSM. Agile Scrum is said to be open as compared to PMP appearance too. Yeah. Why don't you go for PSM? Yeah, I mean, there's certainly lots of other suppliers offering this, just actually similar to PMP or Prince. You can go to lots of other training providers to get the training. Just like anything, it's like when you're buying a laptop or a car, you know, you need to compare them and see what features are important to you. I think SimplyLearn has one of the stronger offerings in the market right now, so I feel pretty confident recommending them as a supplier provider of this training. But you do have other options, so yeah, absolutely take the time to kind of see what's out there. Manual tester, 10 years of experience. Which certification suggest? So I'm assuming you want to go into the Agile space. Really encourage you maybe start with CSM. Okay, that's going to give you kind of the broad brush understanding behaviors and practices. I think that's a good way to kind of get introduced to this. Certified CSM without any experience. Yes. How do you get the experience of getting the PMP certification? So the thing with the PMP certification, you have to have that experience. So you're going to need to prove that. And you have to fill out an application. And guess what? They will audit you and check to make sure that you've got that background and experience. So if you don't have it yet, that's okay. You know, it's going to take all of us some time to maybe get that experience. But maybe start with the CSM, PSM, and get started there. Someone's enrolled, way to go. Qualification suitable for data science. We talked about that. For me, a Bay Area experience 14 years. Yeah, that's great. That's a good starting point for any of those paths. You've got lots of options to consider. Practical project can I work on as an undergrad to boost chance? Well, you know, that's a tough one to answer off the fly. Really encourage you maybe reach out to companies that are hiring interns, or when you've got a summer break, find an organization and just get exposed to some of the projects, you know, volunteer. Shirkala is saying, when should we start my IT career? Yeah, if you're going into IT here, my short answer to Shirkala, I would really encourage you to start with probably the CSM. I think that's going to give you kind of a good introduction to some of the fundamentals, and then use that to guide you on where you want to go next. Is it advisable to do both CSM, PSC, PMP? Remember, two different topic areas. So if you want to learn more about Agile, you're going to go CSM. If you want to learn about more structured project management, go PMP. And the two pair very nicely. So there's nothing preventing you from doing both at the same time. Not any of these credential, which one start? Well, probably CSM would be a good starting point, as mentioned. PMP is for large projects, but it can be applied to small projects by applying the 5 stages. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. The PMP, the whole framework is scalable. It can work for very, very small companies and projects to very, very large ones. You do not need to have Scrum Master experience or any prerequisite for the PSM or the CSM. Yeah, again, questions on PMP, CSM, yep, feel free to take them if you think that would be a good fit for the work you're working in. Is it easier to land a job, Scrum Master job, CSM, PSM? I don't think it's easier either one. They're both recognized. Couple, please confirm. Okay, do you suggest go for CSM 2? I don't believe there is a CSM 2. There is a PSM 2 though. And yeah, if you find that this is, helping your career and you're getting a lot from it, it's a great certification. Encourage you to do it. Is a certified associate project manager under the PMP certification? Okay, so here's an important question. Many of you might not have the experience, the education background to get your PMP. Guess what? The PMI has an option for you. It is called the CAPM. That's the Certified Associate in Project Management. So you can take that without these other prerequisites. It's the same content. And then when you have that experience, you can then kind of take the PMP exam. So that's an option for those of you that might not have the necessary experience. Okay, so I think we're at time here. Some of these questions look repeated. And I think we covered the major ones. Is there anything I might have missed here, Aparna, before we sign off?
Not really. I think just one question from YouTube, though, very similar to what was being asked, but I'm just going to read out the question here. So Prabha has 6 years of experience in development, and she wants to know if doing a CSM or a PSM is going to get her a job in Canada as a Scrum Master. She wants to understand which certification is valued more in the Western countries. That's her question.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question, by the way. I'm also Canadian, so I can relate to that. Here's what it is a little hard to pick just one, and I'll always be a little uncomfortable being asked, which is the best one, Brian? Well, they're both really strong. I would encourage you to look maybe at the CSM first. I think the CSM is generally speaking a little bit more recognized, particularly here in North America. I do a lot of work in North America, so I think I see CSM being asked for more than I see the PSM.
All right, I hope that answers your question, Prabha, from YouTube. So I think we are almost done with our questions here. Thanks so much, Brian, for these insights. I also got to learn a few differences between these certifications. I always wanted to understand how they're different in a job setting, considering that I've worked in project management roles myself. So I found it really interesting to understand. I'm sure, our audience resonates with me on that. So it was great having you all, and also Brian. So Brian, again, thank you so much for your time. Now, there's going to be another poll asking you about how you liked the session. Okay, so just rate us, give us a rating from 1 to 5, 1 being the minimum, 5 being the maximum. Okay, that'll really help us understand where we can improve and what we can do better. Okay, also, because we have these comparisons coming up in the upcoming months, if you would like us to compare any other certifications, any other similar Agile or some Scrum certifications, do let us know on the chat. I'm also finally going to be opening up the chat for a while in case you have some suggestions. Also, people on YouTube, you would let us know on the live chat. Great. So I think we're done here. Time for you guys to let us know your names for the certificate. So you guys are going to be entering your full name. Please make sure that you give us your right name with your spelling. Yeah. Yes, here you go. Okay, so please make sure you enter your name, your full name in the poll that's been just launched. I think people still have more questions. Okay, we'll be almost done, guys. We'll just be ending the poll in a couple of minutes. But I think you got most of your questions answered. I guess it's also going to be difficult for for Brian to be specific in telling you what you should be doing exactly. But I guess largely you understood the differences between the three certifications. Yeah. Right. Please put it on the poll, not on the chat box. Please put it on the poll. Yeah. All right. It was great bringing this session to you guys. Thank you so much, Brian, for your time. I'm just going to wrap the session in a while.
Thank you, Aparna. It's great to. I love the engagement. By the way, I don't think we've ever had this many questions. So I think that's a compliment to your facilitation skills. You got people engaged and excited. So that was so much fun. So thank you, everyone. I get a lot from just hearing the questions and just getting the energy from the session. So this was great. Thank you.
Yeah, some really enthusiastic audience, very curious to learn. And, initially they were a little hesitant to put the questions, but then later on, they just kind of opened up. Yeah, more of them. Yes. So this is how your certification is going to look, guys. Thank you so much for joining in. I will see you again in another session. Bye-bye, Brian. Have a good day. Bye-bye.